I've done a movement, a sequence on my Instagram, so that one there, it's got 15.5 million views at the moment. My most popular one before that's got 6.6 million. So there's something about that one that resonates with people. So today, let's break it down, go through the movements, make it scalable, and have some fun with it. Let's first break down each of the movements. So we've got a forearm stand. Now the forearm stand to start with is single arm, single hand, which I think in yoga is called a funky pincher. We then transition to a standard headstand position, and then finish in a handstand. The thing that makes it interesting and different is the transitions into it. So we start in a kneeling position. We have to lift that forearm off the floor into the headstand position. And then we have the concentric handstand push up to get from the headstand to the handstand. But before we start working on the transitions and combining them, let's first look at the individual components and isolate them as skills. So number one is that half forearm stand, half handstand, and then we hold that position. Now, this position is surprisingly easy because I've created a big base of support, so a nice big triangle. I have contact between my elbow, my hand, and the other hand. And I also have lots of space. When we go into the standard forearm position, mobility-wise, look, proof is in the cap. I actually can't get into the position. I have to switch this round. Straight away, I'm struggling with lack of space because I need to elevate and get out the way. When I go into this position, I've opened up this area and I have more to play with. So this is actually much easier and more comfortable than a standard forearm stand. As long as I position my center of mass in the middle of this base of support. So if you're comfortable in a headstand position, in a forearm stand, in a handstand, you should be very comfortable just to play with that one. And I go as far as saying you'd learn that very, very quickly. If you're not so comfortable upside down in those positions, you can make it much easier by going into a wall assist. So I can go into the position, create that base, but now I step up onto a box or the wall and I can just play around here and see if I can find a position that's more comfortable. Now that can be done chest to wall like that, or I can do exactly the same back to wall. Now with the back to wall version, I do need to kick up to the wall, and just remember that you are going to go this way more than you are this way just because of this higher shoulder position. You're already tipping in that direction. But that's a good safe way to have a play with it and see if you feel controlled enough to come into this position and then do it away from the wall. And then we have the headstand. So one thing to think about with the headstand position is we need to make it relevant to the handstand push-up. So there's lots of different variations of the headstand, but because we're trying to get more weight back into our hands to push out for that final move, we need it to be hands dominant. So what I mean by that is that I'm going to create a triangle for the headstand. So easiest position to balance is going to be a triangle. If I put the head down in line with the hands, that's not going to be easy to balance. We want to have those corners. So there. But look, when I go into the headstand, that I am putting weight back into the hands. I could go like this, and now I have all the weight in the head, but I can't push out of that position. So I want more of a position like this, where I've got more weight in the hands than in the head. So my body line is going to be slightly back in that direction. However, I do need that slight overbalanced position when I do the transition, but we'll talk about the transitions in a second. Same with the forearm stand. We can do it with our feet up on a box. We can do it with our feet close to the wall. So here, even single leg version, and we could do it back to wall and have foot assist in that position. And then our last static position is the finish, the handstand. Now obviously freestanding handstand is going to be the target, so that's where we want to get to eventually, but if we don't have that, we can obviously use a back to wall assist or a chest to wall or foot on a box, chair position there. Okay, now let's look at the transition. So we create that strong base, elbow to hand, forearm on the floor. Hand creates the triangle. I put weight there. So I'm in the kneeling position. I create the shelf with the left elbow that I step onto. Now I lift the high hip position and I can come into that position. I can extend that leg. Now from here, I'm going to transfer more weight over to the right side, which allows me to step into that position. Now you could go from that position down on the eccentric to learn that path back down again. And that's a simple way to look at all the transitions. The eccentric, the down is going to be much easier than the up. You can just isolate that and do repetitions of that to go in, across, and back down again. Now, because the transitions tend to get harder and harder, I'm just going to layer them on top of the earlier ones. So we've got that foundation, that strong position, the knee onto the elbow, the single leg the double leg. So now I'm in this position, I need to go a very small movement, head down here. So I'm trying to make that triangle between the left hand and the head. And then when I go into this position, bring this hand back to here, we've got that perfect triangle to push out for the handstand push up to handstand. But to make that transition from here to here, I need to shift my body weight this way. Now there is a risk when you do that you go too far. We don't want to land on Rosie, so I need to be careful with that position. But ideally, be here, 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 on top, hip high, single leg, double leg, head down, then weight forwards, up into that headstand position. Now send the weight back into the hands. Now if you struggle with that, we could go close to the wall. So be in that position, go through those movements, there, double, head, and now I can put feet onto the wall, and look, I can go up there. Now we do have to be, again, careful with that one, because it's going to put way more weight into the head. Now I don't think that's a bad thing for the neck, but it's a bad thing for the neck if you're not conditioned. So do be careful. If you're new to headstands, I wouldn't do that transition yet. And then we can just add in that final movement, which is headstand to handstand. Now when we do that, that is the hardest movement from a strength point of view. So if you don't quite have that concentric push out of the headstand to handstand, you can use a kip with the legs. You could use the wall and try and walk up, or you could bring the feet down to the floor and do more like a pike push up. But let's try the full movement first. So forearm, hand, hand, shelf for the knee, single leg, double leg, head to the floor, hand to go to headstand position, make sure weight in the hands, push up to your handstand. Now, if I can't get out of this position, I could do that, bring the legs down, and I could push up like a pike push up. That's probably the easiest way if you're in the middle of the floor, and it can still look very intentional. So a little bit of a different video today. Let me know if you have any questions regarding that, how we break down skills, any gaps or things that arise from those movements. Stick them down in the comments below. If you're after coaching, check out my app, link is down in the description, and I'll speak to you in the next one.